Midnight over the Persian Gulf. Calm waters hide one of the most dangerous places on Earth. A narrow strip of sea glows under moonlight, the Strait of Hormuz, only 21 miles wide. Massive oil tankers move silently through the darkness like floating cities of steel. Every ship carries fuel that powers nations, industries, and everyday life across the planet. If these ships stop moving, the world does not simply slow down, it begins to panic. Fuel prices rise first, but fear spreads faster than numbers on a screen. Markets crash before missiles fly, because investors fear uncertainty more than war itself. In distant cities, families feel the shock at gas stations before they understand the reason. One narrow waterway controls the heartbeat of the global economy. Yet most people have never even seen it on a map. To understand its power, we begin not with war, but with geography. The strait connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea and the wider Indian Ocean. It is the only maritime exit for some of the richest oil-producing nations on Earth. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE all depend on this passage. Their energy flows through Hormuz before reaching the rest of the world. On one side stands Iran, watching every movement with strategic precision. On the opposite shore stand Oman and the United Arab Emirates. Geography here is not neutral. It is a permanent political weapon. Whoever influences this route can shake the balance of global power, and everyone knows it. For decades, Hormuz has been both an economic lifeline and a military trap. Tankers crossing these waters carry more than oil. They carry geopolitical tension. The world depends on Hormuz, but no single nation fully controls it. That contradiction makes peace here fragile and temporary. The first great warning came during the Iran-Iraq War of the 1980s. What began as a brutal land conflict spread into the waters of the Gulf. Both sides realized that attacking oil shipments could damage the enemy's economy. Suddenly, commercial tankers became targets in a war they did not start. Missiles struck ships carrying fuel meant for distant countries. Sea mines drifted silently beneath the surface, invisible and deadly. Insurance costs for shipping exploded overnight. Captains feared routes that once seemed routine. Global energy security became hostage to regional conflict. This was the beginning of what became known as the Tanker War. The world watched nervously as the Persian Gulf turned into a battlefield. The United States could not ignore the threat any longer. Washington launched Operation Earnest Will to protect Kuwaiti tankers. American warships began escorting civilian vessels through hostile waters. Fighter jets patrolled above, while naval destroyers guarded below. Every journey became a test of nerves. A single mistake could trigger something far larger than an escort mission. Tension grew with every radar signal and every unidentified vessel. In 1988, disaster struck the USS Samuel B. Roberts. The American warship hit an Iranian mine hidden beneath the sea. The explosion nearly tore the ship apart. Washington answered with force and without hesitation. Operation Praying Mantis was launched against Iranian naval targets. It became the largest American naval battle since World War II. Oil routes became war zones under the eyes of the world. Hormuz survived, but safety there was never fully restored. The guns grew quieter, but the fear never disappeared. Years later, a new kind of conflict emerged, one centered on nuclear ambition. Iran's nuclear program brought intense pressure from the West. Sanctions tightened, diplomacy hardened, and trust vanished. Tehran responded with a warning the world could not ignore. Pressure us too far, and Hormuz may close. It was not just a threat, it was strategic leverage. Iran understood that geography had given it extraordinary power. No missile system could replace the influence of this single waterway. Every world leader understood the message immediately. Oil markets reacted before soldiers ever moved. Traders priced fear itself into every barrel of crude. Sometimes a speech was enough to move global prices. Sometimes a military exercise caused panic without a single shot fired. Sometimes the seizure of one tanker changed everything. Hormuz had become a psychological battlefield. In 2019, the world was reminded how fragile the peace really was. Tankers near the Gulf were suddenly attacked in the night. Explosions ripped through steel hulls beneath dark skies. Flames reflected across black water like warnings from history. Accusations spread faster than the smoke. Washington blamed Tehran for the attacks. Tehran denied responsibility and rejected the claims. Insurance premiums surged once again across global shipping routes. Investors returned to the same old fear: the Strait of Hormuz. Headlines across the world asked the same question: could the world's most important oil route be closing again? Then came January 2020, and tension reached another peak.
Iranian General Qasem Soleimani was killed in a U.S. strike. The region moved dangerously close to open war. Iran responded with missile attacks against American positions. Military bases braced for retaliation across the region. Diplomats spoke carefully, knowing words could become weapons. Analysts turned once again to Hormuz. Would this be the moment the strait became the next battlefield? But closing Hormuz is not as simple as blocking a road. Iran cannot permanently seal the sea forever. Its real power lies in making passage feel impossible. Fast attack boats can swarm larger ships without warning. Anti-ship missiles can threaten from hidden coastal positions. Sea mines can transform routine shipping lanes into deadly traps. Submarines can operate silently beneath the surface. Drones can watch, target, and intimidate from above. The goal is not total closure, it is strategic fear. If enough captains refuse to sail, the effect is nearly the same. Modern economies are built on timing, not patience. Refineries need constant supply to keep fuel moving. Airlines depend on predictable costs for every route. Food transport relies on diesel reaching trucks on time. Manufacturing depends on confidence in uninterrupted shipping. Even a temporary disruption sends shockwaves across continents. Imagine waking up to one headline: Hormuz closed. Within hours, oil prices surge beyond historical records. Governments rush to release emergency reserves. Airlines begin canceling routes to survive rising fuel costs. Inflation returns like a storm breaking through the door. In developing nations, shortages hit first and hardest. In wealthy nations, panic buying begins almost instantly. The crisis spreads not by missiles, but by mathematics. China watches closely because Gulf energy fuels its industries. India watches because affordable oil drives its growth. Europe watches because energy insecurity quickly becomes political instability. The United States watches because global oil shocks ignore borders. Every major navy studies these waters with constant attention. Satellites track movements that ordinary people never notice. Diplomats choose every word carefully
when Hormuz is mentioned. Yet there is a final paradox hidden beneath all this fear. Iran also depends on Hormuz for its own economic survival. That is why the threat is often stronger than the action itself. The strait is small on the map, but if it stops, the world hesitates. And that's all for today. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.